Movement can be very difficult to improve at because a lot of movement tech is either complicated or it can be hard to even remember to try doing it during actual fights. So today I've got 3 tips to help you improve at movement faster and also to help you actually implement it into your gameplay. But if you do want to improve your movement faster and get more in-depth guides, make sure to head over to the GameLeap website where we have literally hundreds of guides to help you improve faster. Guides covering fundamentals, advanced movement techniques, advanced legend tutorials, gameplay breakdowns, legend abilities, legend strategies, and so much more. We spend a lot of time and do our best to give full analytical breakdowns that will actually help you in whatever goal it is you have in the game. So if you actually want to learn faster and become insane at the game, I highly recommend you join the GameLeap family to get instant access to all these in-depth guides by checking out the link in the description below. For our first tip, it's to start with the basics. Now, many of us think that we've got our basics down, locked, and loaded, including me. However, there's a lot more to sliding than just slide jumping around the map, just as an example. Recently, I rediscovered the quick slide or phase slide and started to really implement it into my games, and it completely changed the way I used more advanced movement tech in fights, and I almost instantly became more consistent with those advanced tech. This is why it is super important to start with a really strong foundation in any motor skill, really. The foundation will affect not only how well you are actually able to perform more advanced things, but also how fast you will actually learn them as well. Trust me, I spent hundreds of hours just practicing movement in the firing range alone, trying to make more advanced tech work, and almost every time that I saw a large improvement or felt like I was finally catching on, it was because I realized and addressed some other fundamental issue. Advanced movement is usually a combination of more basic foundational movement or uses concepts from them, so the better you are at those foundations, the easier it's just going to be to do those more advanced tech. Now, that's not the only reason you want to focus on fundamentals though. I think people vastly underestimate how strong even the most basic movements can be and how effective they are when implemented at a higher level. A good example is the slide. Yes, you can use it to slide jump around the map and travel a bit faster, but you can also use it to slide from cover to cover, making it extremely difficult for enemies to hit you while you reposition. And you can do so every 4 seconds due to its internal cooldown. And you can optimize the amount you're actually exposed or the time that you're exposed by timing when you slide from the ground and when you're in the air and to when you're back on the ground, lining it up so that you're in cover, out of cover, and then in cover, spending as little time exposed as possible. Now, this may not sound like it's important, but it could be the defining factor on whether or not you die. It also can make your pushes far more effective because it allows you to move in faster and safer by not exposing yourself as much when taking this approach. Now, you can take this a step further by adding holstering to your slides, allowing you to perform a quick slide. Essentially, when you holster your gun, it only takes 1 step to get enough velocity for a full slide instead of 3. This is massively important if you're trying to use advanced movement tech like tap strafe reloads, redirects, or wall bounces into your fights because it allows you to significantly cut down the risk of getting slowed by bullets or experiencing a dead slide. But even if it's something as simple as a slide jump around a corner instead of just running around it, again, could mean the difference between you living or dying. So before you go on to learn super glides and all these wall jumps and crazy stuff, start with the basics and get extremely good with those first. Luckily, they are easy to pick up quickly, so it won't be long until you can confidently move on to the more advanced stuff. The main things I'd focus on first is slides, slide jumps, sideways and backward jump slides, quick slides, bunny hopping backwards, bunny hopping sideways, bunny hop healing on Octane, and if you are on PC, tap strafe reloads, tap strafe 180s, zigzag tap strafes, and 360 tap strafes, all in that order. Then once you can do all of that, try implementing those different tech with each other as well as with your reloads. For example, quick slide into a reload 180 tap strafe, and once you can do those things, then move on to wall jumps and try implementing all those things with your wall jumps. From there, you can be more free to pick and choose what type of movement tech to focus on next. And since we're on the topic of focus, our next tip is to focus on one movement or combination at a time. So instead of trying to learn wall jumps, bunny hops, quick slides, tap strafes all at the same time, it will be much more effective and faster if you only focus on one thing and go super hard with it. And when I say focus, I don't mean for 1 or 2 sessions. I mean for 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes a month if it's a troublesome one, sometimes 2 to 6 months if it's really troublesome. I'm looking at you, Super Glides. There have been plenty of movement tech I solely focused on for more than a month in order to get it down. super glides, and raw straves are just to name a few. Every single game you should be trying to implement your one movement you are practicing, and don't move on to the next movement until you can do that one movement without having to think about it. Once you have all the basics done, then you can start focusing on implementing combinations for 1 to 2 weeks. It may sound dreadful, but if you want to be able to actually implement advanced movement tech into your gameplay, this is the best way to do it. There are no shortcuts, and you just have to practice enough to make it second nature. And I should stress that one of the reasons this is so important is because one of the hardest things about movement is actually remembering to do it in real fights. You can 180 backflip wall jump in the firing range all you want. That doesn't mean you will be able to do it while getting shot at by players in an actual match. So focusing on single movement allows you to experience the pressures of trying to do it while under fire and in wider variety of situations faster, allowing you to get more comfortable with it and making it easier to remember. Now, it's going to be significantly harder if you try to practice 5 different things and experience all the different pressures all at the same time. It's simply too much for the brain to handle. At least it's too much for my brain, but I'm also kind of a boomer, so I don't know. So do what you can to focus on the one movement or combination and spam it like crazy until you're just doing it without you even realizing that you're doing it. And for our final tip, it's to specialize. Now, you might be tempted to try becoming a master at all of the different movement tech, but I would urge you to take a very different approach. There's nothing wrong with learning all the movement tech, of course, but if there's anything I learned about any skill, is that if you want to achieve impressive levels, then specialization is the key. It goes back to that same concept of focusing on one thing. The more you focus on a single thing, the more you will find all the ins and outs of it. I mean, if you look at all the true movement players, they're usually known for specifically one thing. For example, Treery is known for infinite wall jumps. I mean, the dude might as well be stuck to the wall with gum, like for real. Rect and Bullet L are known for super glides, same for Lyric. Ross is known for his own strafe, and Guape is known for revenant wall chain. You get the idea. I'm not saying not to learn all of the different movement. I think it's a good idea to do so, since there are a billion different combinations you can do. But once you do, or if you find one particular movement you really like or enjoy doing, I highly recommend you really start to experiment with it and see how far you can actually take it. Often this will mean you will need to combine it with other tech to really stretch the limits, but you'll be surprised at how much you can do with one single movement tech alone. Generally, all of the movement in the game is pretty dynamic rather than being something so linear that once you learn it, there's nothing else to learn. People are constantly discovering different ways to use different tech, and it really does open up your eyes to how you can use them when you see it or experience it for yourself. So I do recommend taking the time to learn different tech because it will allow you to use it to empower your favorite movement, but the same can be said for truly mastering only one. In the end, movement can be really difficult and it takes a lot of time, practice, and dedication if you really want to get good at it. But if you focus on just one thing at a time and really understand each piece of tech to its fullest, well, that will actually speed up the process significantly, while also making it easier to learn more advanced movement and also make it faster to learn them and implement them as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.